This is the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, March 17th, 2021.
Joining us, let's get some more perspective right now. Joining us, Congressman Ted Lieu, Democrat of California. He serves on the Judiciary as well as Foreign Affairs committees. Thanks so much, Congressman, for joining us. You tweeted this, and let me read it specifically. If the murderer's temptations are Asian women and he kills them, that's racially motivated. What do you say to officials who say it's simply too soon to call this a hate crime?
Thank you, Wolf, for your question. Let me first say that my heart goes out to the families of the murder victims. What we know about this case is that the murderer targeted an Asian business. He then drove 27 miles to a second Asian business, targeted that business, and then went to a third one. And 6 of the 8 victims are Asian females. So it looks to me that he knew he was going to places where disproportionately the people he shot up would be Asians and female. And I think the investigators need to really look at these facts before sort of saying that they don't think it's racially motivated, because I'm not sure they can come to that conclusion. Yeah,
I suspect you're right. The killing of these 6 Asian women plus two others, 2 white people who were also killed during this mass murder spree, it comes as we're seeing an alarming surge in violence and a lot of discrimination toward the Asian American community. This is so heartbreaking to see what's going on. What's your message to Asian Americans who are understandably so scared right now, and it's so awful that this is happening in our country?
The organization Stop AAPI Hate has been tracking these incidents, and since the pandemic started, there's been nearly 3,800 hate incidents that have been reported. In 2020 alone, that was a 149% spike in hate crimes against Asian Americans. It's important that the Asian American community speaks out, that they vote, that they demand representation in government, in political appointments, in all sorts of issues where it matters that you have Asian Americans with a seat at the table. And mostly, I want everyone to know that this is an issue. We've been talking about it for over a year, that there are hate crimes against Asian Americans, and hopefully more Americans are now aware that this is a very real issue.
Have you been the recipient of any of this kind of hate?
So if you just look at my social media feed, you'll see people routinely tell me to go back to China or Japan or North Korea because they can't, quite figure out the countries. And I routinely get all sorts of hate messages. So I'm an elected official. I'm more used to that. But what troubles me is you have Asian American students in school who are victims of hate incidents. You have elderly Asian Americans who have been assaulted and killed. This is a very real problem. And it's something that historically has happened in the United States, from the Chinese Exclusion Act to the Yellow Peril hysteria to the internment of Japanese Americans. Asian Americans have been targeted and scapegoated in the past.
I assume you've beefed up your personal security a bit. Throughout the pandemic, as you know, Congressman, the former president, Trump and his allies, they've used racist names for the coronavirus. You've urged officials to stop using those terms. How much of an impact does that kind of language have?
When the former president used racist phrases like Kung Flu, and other officials continue to use ethnic identifiers in describing the virus, that adds fuel to the fire of hate. It also gives permission for people to attack Asian Americans. And for any elected official who still wants to use ethnic identifiers in describing this virus, I urge you to please stop. You are hurting the Asian American community.
Well said, indeed. Congressman Ted Lieu of California, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck to you. Be careful out there. And as I say, our hearts go out to those families in the Atlanta area right now who are so suffering. This was such an awful mass murder. It really is hard to believe, as my dad would once say, that this is happening in our country, the United States of America. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Just ahead, more than 2 months after the U.S. Capitol attack, a new warning.